from the station that's on your side. You're watching News 19 This Morning.
Well, good morning and thanks for waking up with News 19 This Morning. I'm Lauren Thomas. Your time now is 4:30 and the big day is almost here. Santa is gearing up his sleigh to start his travel around the world, visiting all the boys and girls. So let's get a check of what the weather here in the Midlands will be like for St. Nick tonight with meteorologist Efren Afante. Will he have a clear start when he gets over here to the Midlands?
Well, hopefully when he gets here, at least he'll have his rain jacket because he might need it, and he might be needing shorts and a t-shirt because it is going to be warm, and you can see right now in the Midlands, very, very light scattered rain has been moving all throughout the Midlands right now. Just a little bit in Newberry County, moving towards the far western, northwestern part of Fairfield County. Outside of that, it is warm. I mean, really warm. 71 in Lexington, 72 in St. Matthews, Orangeburg at 73, a tad cooler in Newberry at 68, and here in Columbia, 71 degrees. Winds out of the south at about 13 miles an hour. We got overcast skies, and we will be dealing with a little bit of rain today. Don't be surprised if you hear maybe a clap of thunder later on this afternoon. Very isolated at best. A record high potential of 80 degrees today. Christmas Eve tonight, 65 degrees with a very slight chance for a scattered sprinkle or two. And then any of that rain will taper off by early tomorrow morning. And for Christmas Day, it is going to be mostly cloudy. We'll have some sunshine, but another record breaker, a high of 81. I think Santa Claus is going to be definitely coming in with some suntan lotion because when he heads back to the North Pole, he's probably going to have a tan when he gets through the Midlands.
Yeah, he's definitely going to need that.
Yeah, definitely will.
Thanks, Efren. Well, like Efren said, the rain is expected to continue today for the third straight day. Yesterday, the grounds continued to be saturated across the state. And to make matters worse, the wet weather was also joined with lots of wind, which caused havoc throughout the day. This is one viewer's home in the Hopkins area who had her foundation damaged due to strong gusts of wind.
I started hearing a whistling at the front door, and I couldn't even open the front door. The wind was that bad. The tree behind me, it almost fell out of the ground like the ones over there. I thought I was going to die, like the house was going to topple over.
I come in, I'm pulling up in the yard, and stuff didn't look normal. And when I got closer to our front driveway, that's when I got it full force. And the first thing I did was, of course, park and go screaming for him, and he opened up the door, but he was pale as a ghost.
Well, parts of the Midlands were under a tornado warning yesterday afternoon, but there haven't been any confirmed reports that we actually got a twister. With all the rain that's poured into our state, the grounds can absorb much more water. News 19's Sonia Gutierrez spoke with the SCDOT, and they say this makes our roads even more susceptible to damage.
With the experience we've seen in the last 60 days and the amount of rain that we've seen, the ground is very, very saturated. A lot of the rivers and the creeks are pretty much full.
And that worries Leland Colvin because there's already 11 roads closed in 6 counties due to water damage.
When we go in there and do a repair, we've got to make sure we get good compaction. If we don't, it's going to slough off. So that's one of our key criteria when we go in there and do repairs is to make sure we get full compaction, and part of that is using cement.
Repairs that have already been partly washed out for 3 roads. Colvin says that as long as the roads don't get a break from all the water, the damage will happen faster and more frequently.
Saturated sub-base is really not good when you have more rain and more storms coming. So.
We spoke to a couple contractors in the area who tell us that concrete and asphalt are porous but very sturdy. Now the trick is to have enough of it in a very strong base at the bottom so that it's not easy to wash out.
With the saturated conditions of the soil and the high winds that are forecasted for the next 48 hours, certainly trees are susceptible to falling over, and that's probably our biggest concern right now.
As long as the heavy rains continue, SCDOT says they'll try their best to stay on top of the saturated roads. In Columbia, Sonia Gutierrez, News 19 WLTX.
Well, the Department of Transportation said there's still people driving around the barricades, so remember, even if the road looks okay, it's what's underneath that could be the problem. Well, since the historic flooding in October, the number of South Carolinians approved for flood-related food stamps skyrocketed, nearly double the amount of people that have asked for federal flood aid were approved for flood-related food assistance, and some lawmakers worry people are taking advantage of the system. Representative Christopher Corley pre-filed a bill to the House suggesting those who apply for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, should be drug tested in order to be eligible. We asked several people what they think of the bill, and many favor the idea of drug testing. Donnie Hall says he thinks the idea is good because he doesn't want to see state tax dollars fall into the wrong hands.
You know, that's taken away from the money from the state that could be helping other people at the same time. You know, just anybody, they could be using those food stamps to sell them for drugs and not actually using it to feed their families.
I think there's some abuse of the system. And if someone is able to afford to afford illegal drugs and that kind of stuff, and they're not really working and things like that, you know, I think that it's fair that they should have to pass a drug test to receive those benefits.
Well, Representative Corley said there's an excessive amount of fraud in the state's social welfare, and his main goal is to eliminate it. Well, we want to remind you that the FEMA deadline is fast approaching. You have until January 3rd at midnight. If you've already registered, then you don't have to do anything. To register, you can head to our website at WLTX.com, where you can find the link under the Flood Recovery tab. Well, a Chapin boy has a mouth full of braces thanks to his desire to help flood victims. 12-year-old Charlie Zabo has been saving up for the hardware. His mom was going to sell some appliances on Craigslist to help with the bill, but Charlie insisted the appliances go to flood victims instead. Charlie's story was posted to Facebook, and his orthodontist, Dr. Carrie White Brown, heard the story and decided to give Charlie his braces for free.
I hope they are better and they can bounce back and get a lot better, have their homes back.
It kind of feels warm and fuzzy because it's like people out there still really care about others. And I think if we have more people in this world like Charlie, you know, the world would just be a much, much better place.
When all, his orthodontic bill totals almost $7,000, but of course all of his services will now be free. Well, an Indiana town named Santa Claus gets flooded with thousands of letters to Santa each year. So what exactly happens to those letters? Well, take a look.
All letters addressed to Santa Claus, the North Pole, and Kris Kringle go somewhere.
Way more than what we normally have.
Many go to the U.S. Post Office in Santa Claus, Indiana.
This is one day's worth, plus all these.
Boxes and boxes of letters with one thing in common. They are all from little kids who want to hear back from Santa.
And the fact that they still believe in Santa Claus, that they still write a letter believing that this dear, wonderful person is going to visit them, I think that's just great.
Along with head elf Pat Cook, many give their time to write back to all the good girls and boys from the original Santa Claus post office.
I do enjoy it a lot.
The elves say some of the letters are humorous.
My very favorite letter, which says, "Dear Santa, please make my dad smarter."
Others quite demanding.
I did have one with 47 requests Friday last week.
And a number written by children from all over the world.
We get a huge amount of mail from Taiwan and China, but most of them are older, like young adults, saying, please give your blessings to my studies. I want to pass my exams.
Santa's elves say they get a lot of artwork from kids, especially those from foreign countries, and they use that artwork to help them decorate the tree that they have here in their workshop. In addition to the drawings and pictures, the elves also pick a few special letters like this one to hold on to.
Dear Santa, my name is Emma. I am in my foster home and I will be adopted by Christmas. My mommy and daddy love me very much. I am going to go to Disney for my adoption celebration, so I won't need much for Christmas. Give it to the kids that will need it more than me.
Letters that remind them why Santa needs his little helpers from a small town in Indiana.
That's the kind of letters we get sometimes.
Well, if you want to keep track of Santa before he comes to your house tonight, you have several options. Google recently rolled out its Santa Tracker, complete with interactive games for online visitors. Super Kiddo Studio also offers a free Santa Tracker app that allows you to follow the oversized elf's every move at any time. And of course, you can track Santa on the NORAD system. The site this year includes games and videos as well as music. And you can also track Santa through the Lowe's app. The free app is called Iris by Lowe's Santa Tracker. On Christmas morning, the app will let you know when, where, and how St. Nick moved around your house on Christmas. Users can also catch Santa dropping off presents under the tree and sneaking milk and cookies. Not sure if I would want to spoil the surprise by seeing what Santa did last night. But anyways, if you haven't signed up for News 19's New Year's Eve's Famously Hot sweepstakes, today is the last day. To enter, just go to WLTX Facebook page. The package includes a night for two at the Inn at USC on New Year's Eve, dinner for two at Oak Table on New Year's Eve, plus tickets to a ton of cool places around town. The winner will be announced tonight on News 19 at 6. Well, after the break, Efren Afante will have your full forecast, plus we'll have more stories from around the Midlands coming up. Also, a little later we'll show how Lissa Lang will have your look at your sports headlines. That's all coming up after the break.
On your side, you're watching News 19 WLTX.
Well, this morning, authorities continue to investigate an accident involving a Columbia fire engine. It happened near the intersection of Garners Ferry Road and Pelham Drive near the Eric San Jose restaurant last night. An official with the fire department says that the firefighters weren't injured. Authorities have yet to release if there were other injuries or what caused the accident. Of course, we'll keep you up to date online at WLTX.com and on air. When Richland County deputies are working on several cases this morning. The first is a shooting that left one person in the hospital. They say it happened around 8 last night on the 2900 block of Leesburg Road. There they say they found a victim with multiple gunshot wounds to the upper body. No word on his condition at this time. If you have any information that can help, you're asked to call Crime Stoppers at 1-888-CRIME-SC. Well, Richland deputies also asking for help to identify a suspect wanted in connection of an armed robbery. It happened Tuesday afternoon at the Raceway convenience store on Broad River Road. Deputies say the suspect pretended to buy an item before showing off a gun and demanding money from the cashier. Authorities say the suspect hit the victim in the head with the gun before being chased out of the store. If you have any information, you're once again asked to call Crime Stoppers. And you can call Crime Stoppers also if you have any information on a man deputies say stole a car. They say the man you see in this surveillance video stole a silver and black 1994 Chevrolet Caprice from the Wash World parking lot on Leesburg Road. We're told the car was taken while the victim ran back inside the business to get rid of to get the rest of her clothes. Again, that number to call is 1-888-CRIME-SC. We're going to send things over to meteorologist Efren Afante. Efren, will the rain hold out this Christmas Eve?
Well, look.
Well, one WLTX viewer is kicking off her holidays with a big milestone. Mabel Nixon Guider is celebrating her 100th birthday. Yesterday, the Irmo native was surrounded by family and friends as they cut the birthday cake. And even though Miss Guider has lived for a century, she says she doesn't feel like it and says the key to long life is hard work.
We'd go out and work and bring a little change in and buy things for ourselves and let my daddy have money to feed us, clothe us, and take us to the fair and take us on trips. And that's about all I can think of right now.
Well, Ms. Guider attended both elementary and high school in Irmo. And before we head to break, we'll leave you with some songs of the season. This morning we have the Blue Tones' Finest Voices from the Fairfield Magnet School for Math and Science.
Down to the chimney with good Saint Nick. First comes the stocking, a little
From the station that's on your side, you're watching News 19 This Morning.
Well, good morning and thanks for waking up with News 19 this morning. I'm Lauren Thomas and a Merry Christmas Eve to you. Well, it's not the typical Christmas time weather and Santa might be hitting some rain as he heads here into the Midlands. Let's get a check on the weather with meteorologist Efren Afante. Efren, good morning.
Well, good morning to you, Lauren, and Merry Christmas Eve to you and all to us here in the Midlands. We had some light showers this morning, very, very light showers that moved all throughout the Midlands, but right now, pretty much all of us are clear of any rain as far as anything falling down, but temperatures are extremely warm for this time of the year. Right now, we're about 25 degrees above where we should be for the start. 72 in St. Matthews, 70 in Winnsboro, Lexington at 72 degrees, Saluda at 71. Here in Columbia, 73 degrees. Winds out of the south at 14 miles an hour. We got overcast skies. It is just flat out muggy out there. And hour by hour this morning, we will have a chance for hit or miss light showers to sprinkles all throughout the morning. But look at this. We may drop down to 69 later on this morning, but we'll be up to 74 degrees by lunchtime. We are looking at a high today of about 80 degrees. Good chance for some isolated showers all throughout the day. Winds out of the south, southwest about 10 to 15 miles an hour. For Christmas Eve, overnight tonight, 65 degrees, so light showers, and then any showers that will be around will be quickly out of here by the morning. But for Christmas Day, mostly cloudy. We will see some sunshine with a record-breaking high of 81 degrees. We'll take a look at the 7-day forecast and what Santa's going to be expecting all throughout the Midlands coming up in just a few minutes. Lauren?
All right, thanks, Efren. Well, like Efren said, the rain is expected to continue for the third straight day. Yesterday, the grounds were once again saturated across the state. And to make matters worse, the wet weather was also joined by lots of wind, which caused havoc throughout the day. This is one viewer's home in the Hopkins area who had her foundation damaged due to those strong gusts.
I started hearing a whistling at the front door, and I couldn't even open the front door. The wind was that bad. The tree behind me, it almost fell out of the ground like the ones over there. I thought I was going to die, like the house was going to topple over.
I come in, I'm pulling up in the yard, and stuff didn't look normal. And when I got closer to our front driveway, that's when I got it full force. And the first thing I did was, of course, park and go screaming for him, and he opened up the door, but he was pale as a ghost.
Well, parts of the Midlands were under a tornado warning yesterday afternoon, but there haven't been any confirmed reports that we actually got a twister. Well, destruction from the October flood still remains, and one visible reminder for those in Columbia is the destroyed Title Max and Liberty income tax on Divine Street that has yet to be demolished. A lot of you have asked questions about the building, and News 19's Joyce Coe went out and got some answers for you.
It's been more than 2.5 months since we watched the rapids of the October flood take in this Title Max building. Although the windows, walls, and roof have caved in, the structure hasn't been demolished following the flood. Police tape, the only thing keeping pedestrians from the building, has fallen off.
And now the building's not just an eyesore, but a safety hazard. So we asked Richland County what they were doing about moving the process along.
And when things become a public safety issue, yes, county has to step in and do what's right for the community at large.
Beverly Harris with the Richland County Public Information Office says the county is working with the owner of the building to get what's left of it taken down.
We are concerned about public safety, but we also have to be fair to property owners.
Harris says the county could step in at some point if nothing is done about it, but says it hasn't come to that yet.
We prefer to work with the property owner so that the property owner incurs the cost of demolition. If the county has to step in to demolish a building, that's a cost to the taxpayers, and we want to avoid that.
Although the owner doesn't live in the state, Harris says he has been cooperative.
The proximity concern there, but he has been in touch with the county inspection staff and just wanting to do the right thing here.
But until something is done about the building, Harris urges against trespassing, as the building is private property.
I know people drive by there, they see it, but I just urge people to stay off the property.
Joyce Coe, News 19 WLTX.
Well, Harris says commercial properties can run slower than residential, but the steps taken by the county are on a case-by-case basis. Well, a state lawmaker promising to help farmers devastated by the October flood. The chairman of the House Budget Writing Committee, Brian White, says lawmakers must help farmers survive crop losses estimated at $376 million. But he is not yet proposing a specific amount for the state to pay. The Anderson Republican says he will push for a Palmetto Farm Aid bill when the legislative session resumes in January. Earlier this month, Governor Haley refused to seek federal aid for farmers, saying they already have federally subsidized flood insurance. Well, we want to remind you that the FEMA deadline is fast approaching. You have until January 3rd at midnight. And if you have already registered, then you don't have to do anything. But to register, you can head to our website at WLTX.com, where you can find a link under the Flood Recovery tab. Well, a Chapin boy has a mouth full of braces thanks to his desire to help flood victims. 12-year-old Charlie Zabo has been saving up for the hardware. His mom says was going to sell some appliances actually on Craigslist to help with the bill, but Charlie insisted the appliances go to flood victims instead. Charlie's story was posted on Facebook, and orthodontist Dr. Carrie White Brown heard the story and decided to give Charlie his braces for free.
I hope they are better and they can bounce back and get a lot better, have their homes back.
It kind of feels warm and fuzzy because it's like people out there still really care about others. And I think if we have more people in this world like Charlie, the world would just be a much, much better place.
When all, his orthodontic bill totals almost $7,000, but of course all of his services will now be free. Well, this morning, authorities continue to investigate an accident involving a Columbia fire engine. It happened near the intersection of Garners Ferry Road and Pelham Drive near the Eric San Jose restaurant. That happened all last night, and an official with the fire department says the firefighters weren't injured. Authorities have yet to release if there were other injuries or what caused the accident. Of course, we'll keep you up to date online at WLTX.com and on air. Well, in Richland County, deputies are working on several cases this morning. The first is a shooting that left one person in the hospital. They say it happened around 8 last night in the 2900 block of Leesburg Road. There they say they found a victim with multiple gunshot wounds to the upper body. No word on his condition at this time, but if you have information that can help, you're asked to call Crime Stoppers at 1-888-CRIME-SC. Richland deputies are also asking for help to identify a suspect wanted in connection to an armed robbery. This happened Tuesday afternoon at the Raceway convenience store on Broad River Road. Deputies say the suspect pretended to buy an item before showing off a gun and demanding money from the cashier. Authorities say the suspect hit the victim in the head with the gun before being chased out of the store. If you have any information, you're once again asked to call Crime Stoppers. And you can also call Crime Stoppers if you have any information on a man deputies say stole a car. They say the man that you see in the surveillance video right here stole a silver and black 1994 Chevrolet Caprice from the Wash World parking lot in Leesburg Road. We're told the car was taken while the victim ran back inside the business to get the rest of her clothes. Again, that number to call is 1-888-CRIME-SC. Well, it's a spectacle of lights that is a 7-year tradition. The man behind the show is a volunteer firefighter and says it's his way of helping out his community.
$23,000 bulbs dazzle Mill Street in Springville.
We're the house with all the lights.
And Jim Josiak keeps adding on.
2 on the lower part of the house are from the Village of Springville.
Okay.
That were on the lampposts. And the 2 on the second story of the house where the LED strips are, those are from the Festival of Lights that were on the lampposts in Niagara Falls.
Some lights are less glamorous.
People will actually go kind of garbage picking and they'll see like big things like commercial stuff that maybe quit working, and then my wife and I will go through it over the summertime.
They fix them up, and in September Josiak starts getting the show ready. It's a tradition he's had since 2008 when his wife got sick.
We used to love going around and seeing Christmas lights and stuff, and she wasn't able to do it that year. And did a basic decoration in our yard so that she could watch out the front and watch the lights.
But even that show was more than what's in most of our front yards. Now it's so big it has its own radio station and a goal larger than lighting up his wife's face.
In 1 month period, we doubled the amount of food we were getting. This year, we have just about 1,200 to 1,300 pounds of food.
All of this will go to 2 local pantries.
Christmas is really for everyone. No matter how bad you have it and things look bad, there's always somebody that has it worse than you do. So always look on the bright side.
And this is their way of giving back to the community that always shows up to see the lights.
Well, if you want to keep track of Santa before he comes to your house tonight, you have several options. Google recently rolled out its Santa Tracker, which is complete with interactive games for online visitors. Super Kiddo Studios also offers a free Santa Tracker app that allows you to follow the oversized elf's every move at any time. And of course, you can track Santa on the NORAD system. The site this year includes games, videos, and music. And you can also track Santa thanks to the Lowe's app. This free app is called Iris by Lowe's Santa Tracker, and on Christmas morning, the app will let you know when, where, and how St. Nick moved around your house on Christmas. Users can also catch Santa dropping off presents under the tree, sneaking milk and cookies. Well, if you haven't signed up for News 19's New Year's Famously Hot sweepstakes, today is the last day. To enter, just go to the WLTX Facebook page. The package includes a night for two at the Inn at the USC on New Year's Eve and dinner for two at the Oak Table on New Year's Eve also, plus tickets to a ton of cool places around town. The winner will be announced tonight on News 19 at 6. Well, coming up, we'll have another look at your full forecast with meteorologist Efren Afante, and hopefully the clouds will go away as we could see a full moon on Christmas. That's all coming up after the break. Well, while we may not see a white Christmas, we will see a full moon. If you're younger than 38, this will be your first chance to see the full moon on Christmas. The last time this happened was 1977, and experts say it won't happen again until 2034. So this will be my first time to see a full moon on Christmas since I'm in that younger than 38 crowd.
I'll leave that question on age to you, and I'll leave it right there.
All right, appreciate it.
But, you know, we will be able to track Santa through NORAD. It's actually on our website. If you go on our website, WLTX.com, you kids can actually track Santa. Right now, he is flying through areas of Australia. It is 5:14 p.m. Christmas Eve out there, so he's already on his jolly way going around.
Already.
We may be able to see it. We may be able to see that full moon tomorrow night, but one thing that we're not seeing right now is temperatures that should be where they're supposed to be right now because, believe it or not, is something that a meteorologist doesn't say often. We are 40 degrees warmer than where we should be for this time of the year.
Well, families in Clarendon County are going to be a little bit warmer this winter. More than 2,000 winter coats were donated by Macy's and the organization Clothes for Souls. It was all to help women and children who are in need this holiday season. Many people in the town of Manning saw significant flood damage in October, and some of them lost everything. For Charlene Bell, she was grateful to be able to see some much-needed help after the flood.
Everything is just different and new, so just starting over and knowing that there's people out here that help us is a good thing.
When you pass through our city, you will see little damage, but there is a lot of damage that is there. So we're trying to help as much as we can.
Well, that was the Manning Mayor, Julia Nelson, and she hopes that the coats, toys, and comforters that were passed out will help keep people warm during the winter. And one WLTX viewer is kicking off her holidays with a big milestone. Mabel Nixon Guider is celebrating her 100th birthday. Yesterday, the Irmo native was surrounded by family and friends as they cut the birthday cake. And even though Ms. Guider has lived for a century, she says she doesn't feel like it and says the key to a long life is hard work.
We'd go out and work and bring a little change in and buy things for ourselves and let my daddy have money to feed us, clothe us, and take us to the fair, and take us on trips. And that's about all I can think of right now.
Well, Ms. Guider attended both elementary and high school in Irmo. Well, stay with us for more news headlines coming up. And after the break, that's when all these new news headlines will come up. But stay with us. We have another Songs of the Season performance by the Blue Tones' finest voices from the Fairfield Magnet School for Math and Science.
station that's on your side. You're watching News 19 This Morning.
Well, good morning and thanks for waking up with us here on News 19 This Morning. I'm Lauren Thomas. It's 5:30 this morning. Well, it's expected to be yet another warm and wet day in the Midlands. Let's check in with meteorologist Efren Afante with what Santa can expect to see in the Midlands tonight. Efren?
Well, Lauren, right now, I think Santa is going to be bringing a rain gear just in case. We did have a little bit of light rain showers that moved through the Midlands, but right now we are clear of any rain falling down. But the big story, we are almost 40 degrees, if not more than 40 degrees warmer, or where we should be right now. 73 in Lexington, 72 in Bishopville and in Sumter, 73 down in Orangeburg. Newberry at 70 degrees, Saluda at 72. Here in Columbia, we're sitting at 73 degrees. Overcast skies, winds out of the southwest at 11 miles an hour. It is a very muggy start to the morning as well. Now, we will see some light rain today, but the big thing is we're going to be looking at a record-breaking high temperature of 80 degrees, and it will be a little bit windy. Christmas Eve tonight, 65 degrees with some lingering light showers that could go into the early morning tomorrow for our Christmas Day. But by afternoon, mostly cloudy skies, a little bit of sunshine, a high, another record breaker of 81 degrees. Now, if you were heading out this morning to do your last-minute shopping or you're heading to work, give yourself a lot of extra time because all the roadways are still wet, even though it isn't raining anymore. No fog, fortunately, and no delays as you're coming off the Sumter Highway crossing over I-77. Garner's Ferry heading to downtown, light traffic at best right now. If you're coming from I-26 and Lake Harbison Boulevard to the Willie B, 21 minutes. From the airport to downtown, a 16-minute commute. We'll take a look at your traffic conditions all throughout the morning and the most important holiday forecast coming up in just a few minutes. Lauren?
All right. Well, thanks, Efren. Taking a look at your stories around the nation now. The death toll is likely to climb following an outbreak of deadly tornadoes and severe storms in the South and Midwest. In hard-hit Mississippi, several people died Wednesday, including a child. Forecasters expect the severe weather threat to shift east, giving way to record heat along the East Coast. Well, Black Lives Matter protesters are planning more demonstrations today in light of recent police shootings. Dozens of activists were arrested for disrupting travel at main airports in Minneapolis Wednesday, and many are calling for charges to be filed against the officer who fatally shot a 27-year-old black man in the city last month. In Charlotte, a bus driver is facing charges after the bus she was driving hit a utility pole that fell on a man, killing him. She's 33-year-old Talasha Brown. Police say she was driving the bus out of the terminal yesterday morning when she turned the wrong way and hit a utility pole. That pole fell on a 52-year-old man who was standing on the sidewalk. Investigators say Brown didn't realize she had hit the pole and continued her trip to Atlanta. Authorities contacted the bus on Interstate 85 southbound, and it returned to the terminal, and police say there were 9 passengers on the bus at the time, but they were not injured. Well, in Richland County, 2 men have been arrested in connection to the shooting death of a man at a gas station earlier this month. 19-year-old Ivan Gadsden and 21-year-old Ryan Alston have been charged with murder and counts of armed robbery, kidnapping, assault, and battery, and possession of a weapon during a crime. Deputies say back on December 13th, they shot and killed a 20-year-old Jeremy Davis and injured another man in a car at the Sphinx gas station on Lee Road during an attempted robbery. Both men are in the Richland County Jail. Well, the movie director sentenced to jail for the death of a West Columbia native who was killed on the set of a movie is asking a Georgia judge to set him free early. Former Midnight Rider-director Randall Miller began serving a 2-year sentence in March after he pleaded guilty to charges of involuntary manslaughter and criminal trespassing. Sarah Jones died on February of last year after a freight train plowed into Miller's crew while they were shooting on some train tracks in Savannah. A legal motion by Miller's attorney says he should walk free because of his model behavior and deteriorating health. Meanwhile, an attorney for Jones' parents says they oppose the early release. So far, no decision has been made. Well, in Greenville, a woman has been charged with felony DUI after troopers say she failed to yield the right-of-way and struck a pickup truck. She's 36-year-old Nicole Bryant, and troopers say the victim was taken to the hospital for their injuries. Bryant was taken to jail, where her bond has been set at $35,000. Well, this morning, an Easley man is behind bars accused of injuring a 6-month-old baby. He's 25-year-old Benjamin Bolding. Deputies say 6-month-old in his care had potentially life-threatening injuries to her face. They say he told them the baby got the injuries while sleeping in a wooden crib. However, doctors say that story was not consistent with the baby's injuries. Bolding was babysitting the child at his home while the baby's mother, who was also his live-in girlfriend, was at work. He is currently in the Pickens County Jail under a $20,000 bond. Well, with all the rain that's poured onto our state, the grounds can absorb much more water. The Department of Transportation says this is making our roads more susceptible to damage. There's already 11 roads closed in 6 counties due to water damage in the last 48 hours. 3 of those roads had temporary fixes from the October floods. The Department of Transportation says that with more rain, damages will happen faster and more frequently. One of the techniques used to make the road stronger is mixing cement, but contractors around town say that as long as the road base is not strong, the saturation will continue to wash out the roads.
With the saturated conditions of the soil and the high winds that are forecasted for the next 48 hours, certainly trees are susceptible to falling over, and that's probably our biggest concern right now. As long as the weather conditions improve and the soil conditions dry out, we'll be able to go in there and make repairs and get those roadways open as quickly as possible.
Well, SCDOT says there's still people driving around barricades, so remember, even if the road looks okay, it's what's underneath that could be the problem. Well, since the historic flooding in October, the number of South Carolinians approved for flood-related food stamps has skyrocketed. Nearly double the amount of people that have asked for federal flood aid were approved for flood-related food assistance, and some lawmakers worry people are taking advantage of the system. Representative Christopher Corley pre-filed a bill to the House suggesting those who apply for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, should be drug tested in order to be eligible. And we asked several people what they think of the bill, and many of them were in favor of the idea of drug testing. Donnie Hall said he likes the idea because he doesn't want to see state tax dollars fall into the wrong hands.
You know, that's taken away from the money from the state that could be helping other people at the same time. You know, just anybody, they could be using those food stamps to sell them for drugs and not actually using it to feed their families.
I think there's some abuse of the system. And if someone is able to afford to afford illegal drugs and that kind of stuff, and they're not really working and things like that, you know, I think that it's fair that they should have to pass a drug test to receive those benefits.
Well, Representative Corley said there's an excessive amount of fraud in the state's social welfare, and his main goal is to eliminate it. And we want to remind you that the FEMA deadline is fast approaching. You have until January 3rd at midnight. If you have already registered, then you don't have anything to worry about. But if you want to register, you can head over to our website at WLTX.com, where you can find a link under the Flood Recovery tab. Well, a Midlands professor who teaches the New Testament and Greek has a new book in which he writes of the misconceptions in the Bible. News 19's Mary Sturgill took a look at his findings as they are portrayed in the Christmas story.
By coming for the ordinary person, we now know that Jesus came for us.
Dr. David Croteau, who is a professor at Columbia International University, is writing the misconceptions he says most of us have about the birth of Jesus, as told in the Christmas story, and often portrayed in nativity scenes. He says the clues can be found in the words, like in reference to the place where Jesus was born.
It actually means guest room.
In his recently released book, Urban Legends of the New Testament, Croteau says Jesus was probably not born in a manger.
And so Jesus was born in the family room and then placed into one of these feeding troughs.
He also says the birth of Jesus was not an emergency. Again, the clue is in the words.
While they were there, the time came for her to give birth. So there was no urgency. Joseph could have found adequate accommodations at some other place. He didn't have to stay in a barn or a stable.
I always wondered when I was a kid, how close was she when she's going clompity-clomp on that donkey?
Pastor Dick Lincoln of Shandon Baptist Church says he's glad people are still talking about the story.
I think it's wonderful that this long after the events, we're still concerned about the fine details of Jesus and everything about him.
And then there are those 3 wise men, on which the popular Christmas carol is based.
behold, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem, saying, Where is he who has been born King of the Jews? The only problem with it is there weren't three, they weren't kings, and they weren't from the Orient. Besides that, great song.
Croto says in order to portray an accurate Christmas story, perhaps we should tweak our nativity scenes.
What you could do is you could buy an extra nativity set, so you have like 6 of them, and then just put them across the room from the nativity scene, because they're still on the way there as Jesus is being born. Then your nativity set will be a little bit more accurate.
And whether you're looking at the fine details or the big picture, Pastor Lincoln says the story still shows the love of God.
And I think it speaks to the importance of his birth for not only the church, but for people who are interested in what really happened.
Mary Sturgill, News 19, WLTX.
Again, the book is called Urban Legends of the New Testament, and you can pick up a copy on Amazon. Well, if you signed up for our News 19's New Year's Eve Famously Hot Sweepstakes, today is the last day to sign up. And to enter, you just go to WLTX's Facebook page. The package includes a night for 2 at the Inn at USC on New Year's Eve, also a dinner for 2 at Oak Table, also on New Year's Eve, plus tickets to a ton of cool places around town. And the winner will be announced tonight on News 19 at 6. Well, will Santa have to cover his sleigh tonight while he's out delivering gifts? Efren Infante is in with your full forecast as more rain could be on the way. Plus, Alyssa Lang has a look at some of your sports highlights coming up. What's a Christmas gift sure to never forget? For 13-year-old Rebecca Jensen, having only one left hand has never held her back. But the 8th grader will soon be able to dream a little bit bigger thanks to the generosity of some strangers.
That's going to push on her palm so that she can actually close the hand.
At Marymount University in Arlington, a goodwill gesture from an alumni and her family, a science professor, and a 3D printer, all ingredients for a perfect Christmas surprise recipe.
Merry Christmas.
13-year-old Rebecca Jensen.
Wow.
Given a brand new prosthetic hand, a gift from that Marymount alumni as part of a lesson for her little girls.
We wanted to teach them what it meant to give and not receive this Christmas.
I was very surprised at what it was.
I kept getting phone calls and emails, and she was aware that something was happening, but I managed to deflect, divert, distract.
Great. Oh, look at that.
It's easy to take for granted holding an apple, a cup, a bottle of water.
This is the first time I've seen her grab something with her right hand, so that was pretty emotional for me.
And once the professor can make the perfect fit, the sky's the limit for Rebecca's future and her new digits.
It's cool that people who don't even know me care so much and stuff.
Wow, an amazing Christmas gift. Well, still ahead, will Santa hit some rain on the way to your homes this weekend? Well, Efren Infante will have your forecast coming up. And before we head to break, ever wonder just how much Santa eats on Christmas Eve? Well, take a look.
Ho, 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 ho.
Tracking Santa. If you want to keep track of Santa before he comes to your house tonight, you have several options. Google recently rolled out its Santa Tracker, complete with interactive games for online for visitors, and Super Kiddo Studios also offers a free Santa Tracker that allows you to also check them out. You can also look on NORAD, where they have a lot of games this year as well, which is something cool they have.
Cool. That is going to be such a cool thing to track. And before we go, from our family to yours, have a very Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. And this is why we love to call the Midlands home.